Welcome to the 700 Club, a slap in the face to the U.S. That's what Iran is calling its revenge attack on 2 U.S. bases in Iraq. The good news, no reports of American casualties. Will President Trump strike back? And although it seems doubtful, could we be on the brink of war? Chris Mitchell has the latest.
Iran called the missile attack Operation Martyr Soleimani and fired the surface-to-surface missiles at 2 U.S. military bases, one near Erbil in Kurdish Iraq and the other in Iraq's Anbar province at the Ain Assad Air Base, which President Trump visited in 2018. Iran's supreme leader called it a slap in the face to the U.S. And Iran's foreign minister, Javad Zarif, tweeted, Iran took and concluded proportionate measures in self-defense. And he added, we do not seek escalation of war, but will defend ourselves against any aggression. After the attacks, President Trump tweeted, all is well. Missiles launched from Iran at 2 military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good. Vice President Mike Pence briefed House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, and after she tweeted, we must ensure the safety of our service members, including ending needless provocations from the administration and demanding that Iran cease its violence. America and the world cannot afford war. On Capitol Hill, after last night's attack, the House is reconsidering its plan to vote on a war powers resolution to limit any presidential response. At the White House, President Trump plans to speak about those attacks. And on Tuesday, he said it wouldn't be good for the U.S. to leave Iraq.
Well, I think it's the worst thing that can happen to Iraq. If we leave, that would mean that Iran would have a much bigger foothold, and the people of Iraq do not want to see Iran running the country. That I can tell you. So we'll see how it all works out.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo defended the decision to kill Soleimani.
We could clearly see we're continuing efforts on behalf of this terrorist to build out a network of campaign activities that were going to lead potentially to the death of many more Americans. It was the right decision. We got it right.
Some Middle East observers believe the night attacks appear designed to allow Iran to show a military response, but avoid American casualties to further escalate the situation. Even after Iran's retaliations by its military, there's still concern about Iran's proxies.
It's been Iran, through its proxies, and it has consistently escalated this in terms of the size, scale, scope of their attacks.
And those proxies in the region are extensive. They include Hezbollah operating in Lebanon and Syria, plus the Houthis in Yemen. In addition, Iran has a number of Shiite militias like Hashd al-Shaabi inside Iraq. We've also learned that the Mahdi army has been reactivated by the infamous Shiite Iraqi cleric Muqtada al-Sadr. It's estimated Iran has as many as 200,000 armed militiamen from Iran to the Mediterranean. These militia armies are the legacy of Qasem Soleimani in order to fulfill Iran's ultimate goals of regional domination, driving the United States out of the Middle East, and destroying the Jewish state. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. You know, the tensions are eased off right now, but don't for any minute think that it's not going to be over. They're going to be targeting the president. They're going to be targeting Americans. They're going to be doing what they can to through the Straits of Hormuz. It's going to be nasty. These people are not at the end of the road at all. And remember what they believe. They believe that ultimately it's going to be a major conflict, and when millions of people are going to die, then the 12th Imam, the so-called Mahdi, is going to return, and he's going to take charge of the world. That's their deep-held religious conviction. So they don't mind slaughtering 1 million people or so, because that's part of their deeply held religious conviction. So keep in mind, we're not at the end of it whatsoever, but we need to pray. And again, I urge the Secret Service and those around the president to do everything they can to protect him, because he is clearly a target. There's a target right on him, and they're going after him. It's just a question of how soon, and we need to protect him. Well, in other news, let's get on with it. The president and Senate majority leaders say they're ready for an impeachment trial. So what are the Democrats waiting for? John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau.
That's Senator McConnell announcing Tuesday night he is ready to begin the trial without an agreement with Democrats over witnesses. Democrats have been pushing for additional witnesses, but McConnell says he wants to defer that decision until later, similar to the process in President Clinton's impeachment trial back in 1999. Now McConnell has the votes to carry out that plan. The trial can't begin, though, until House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sends the impeachment articles to the Senate. She's reportedly told fellow Democrats Tuesday night that she's not ready to send the articles until she sees specific rules for trial procedures. Republican Senator John Thune said Democrats aren't cooperating with Senate Republicans to move the process forward.
Right now, they seem to be intent on playing political games with this, but if the House will send it over and Senator Schumer will agree to sit down with Senator McConnell, we can work out a path forward, and we'll see where that leads.
President Trump and even some members of Pelosi's own party say it's time she allow the trial to begin. Well, thousands of people fled their homes on Puerto Rico's southwest coast after Tuesday's early morning powerful 6.4 earthquake, which cut power to the entire U.S. territory. It came at the end of a 10-day string of quakes, and seismologists said there was no way of knowing when they would ease. Many Puerto Ricans stayed with friends or family or even slept outdoors far from the coast, fearful of collapsing buildings or tsunami. The U.S. territory is under a state of emergency. President Trump and FEMA are monitoring the situation. Well, thunderstorms are bringing some relief to firefighters battling the deadly wildfires across Australia's drought-parched east coast. This as authorities have arrested 24 people for intentionally setting some of those fires. Meanwhile, as the flames consume tens of thousands of acres, Christians are issuing a call to prayer. Charlene Aaron has the story.
Rain brought welcome relief to Australian communities and fire crews battling the country's raging wildfires, but the unprecedented devastation continues. Fires have consumed more than 32,000 square miles. That's nearly the size of Indiana and 80 times bigger than the territory destroyed in California's 2019 wildfires.
While we were fighting the front coming in on the southern side, it came in on the eastern side. While we're fighting the eastern side, it came in from the western side. So you don't really have too much of a chance when that happens.
The unprecedented fires have killed more than 24 people, including a firefighter who was working to put out unattended campfires. More than 2,000 homes have been lost, but many businesses have been destroyed too, adding to the tragedy.
Those people who may not have lost their homes, but they don't have a place to turn up for work today. They're not sure how their next paycheck is going to arrive. The cost of this is unprecedented.
This woman was evacuated by boat, leaving after she tried to save her kangaroo sanctuary.
The area we were sheltering in was on fire, and we could see the property burning from the front, and we already knew it was around the back and the sides, and if we didn't have that river, I'm not even sure we would be here today.
Astronomer Hugh Ross of Reasons to Believe, an educational institute that promotes science and faith, explained some of the causes of the wildfires.
The global mean temperature has risen by 1 degree centigrade since 1950, and in Australia it's actually risen a little faster than that. And if you combine that higher temperature with an extended drought that Australia's experienced, plus the high winds, that explains the devastating destruction of the fires.
Ross also said the ecological impact will last for years.
In latest figures, 18 million acres destroyed, over 1 billion animals have been killed. It's going to take decades for that region to recover.
The recent rains bring some relief. Firefighters in New South Wales captured on video rejoicing as torrential rains poured over fire-ravaged areas. Christians across Australia are calling on America and the world to pray.
Australia needs your prayers, America. We need it right now because we've seen some incredible things happen through prayer over the last few weeks. And firefighters have said how much they appreciate those prayers as well. So please pray for Australia and pray for these bushfires that they will just be extinguished and that they will go out.
Officials say they won't know the full extent of the damage caused by the wildfires until the flames subside, but they've already committed more than $1 billion to rebuilding. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
They have our prayers indeed. Pat, some of those scenes are just devastating.
It's unbelievable. It's a tragedy beyond comprehension. When you think of a billion animals killed, a billion animals, those poor little koala bears and the kangaroos and the others, wildlife, it'll take hundreds of years maybe to get back to where it's supposed to be. So please, let's pray for them wherever you are, and just hold those people in your prayers and your thoughts. And together, the world community needs to stand with Australia. This is one of the, yes, go ahead.
10 years ago, I was in Australia after they had what they called the worst wildfires in 100 years.
Yeah.
These are way worse. And I was there covering the aftermath, and it was mainly in like the Melbourne area. And
yeah.
Just, you know, when you see Australia on TV, it's gorgeous. And it was just, you know, all charred like we're seeing now. And, but this, I mean, if that was the worst fires they'd had in 100 years, this is the worst in 1,000 years. So this is so much worse.
It's terrible. But to think of 1 billion of those animals dead, 1 billion animals, I mean, it's just incredible. All right, well, our prayers are with our friends in Australia, and they're asking for prayer. Please pray wherever you are, in your churches and whatever. Ask God to relieve the burden on these poor people. John.
Pat, an amazing and dramatic rescue at sea by the U.S. Coast Guard. After his boat was damaged in a storm, Tennessee native Pete Brown and 2 other sailors were stranded for 9 days in the Pacific Ocean. During that time, Brown says he looked up for comfort.
Watched the stars and prayed and hoped that either way my family was going to be okay.
The crew used mirrors to catch the attention of passing ships, and they say they're grateful to be alive and reunited with their family. Pat, a happy reunion for Brown and his crewmates.
Well, thank God they got rescued. We had a report a couple of days ago about somebody that had a stroke on a cruise ship, and they did a rescue at sea to get that person to a hospital. So these people thank the Lord they got rescued, but just think, you're out in the middle of that ocean. It just goes on forever. And people who are stranded on boats, I mean, it's horrible to contemplate how the suffering. If you ever had a chance to cry out to God for his mercy, that's the way to do it.